Hi everybody, Beanmeister22 here. Yes, it's hot and we have a fan going. We don't have air conditioning here, but we're going to build a brick set. That's right, it's the Cobi World of Tanks IS-2 brick set. Now, I don't know what an IS-2 tank is at this point, but I'm going to guess it's a Russian tank. But we know it's a Cobi set, and it's a World of Tanks set. Now, there's something you should know about these Cobi World of Tanks sets. They tend to be more expensive than the standard Cobi small army brick tanks. And they come with some stickers to say what team you're on. I guess that's what it's for. And you have numbered bags. A lot of people have asked, hey, are the bags numbered in the Cobi sets? Yes, they are. And then, just like with the Lego set, you have the numbered bags, but then you have some pieces which are not bagged. You know, some of the bigger flat pieces, they just come loose. Now, a lot of people have said, how come you haven't been doing many builds? You know, I like your channel for the brick sets. You don't have any brick sets. Well, you know, because we have Black Widows, but there's another reason, too. If you remember, a few months ago when I was in Hawaii, and I made that video about almost drowning when I was filming underwater and cracking some ribs and hurting myself. Remember that video? I am now just getting to the point that I have full use of everything where I can sit and build a brick set without just, So, yeah, I was injured. I couldn't build any Lego sets because I was injured. That's an interesting excuse there, isn't it? But, hey, we got the video footage proof of it, all right? And then spiders, at least we know with these brand new sets, when I open a bag, a Black Widow spider's not going to come out of it, right? And you can see here from me building, you can see these standard build books, like a Lego build book. You have the standard Cobi build book. If you've ever built, or at least recently built, if you've built any of the Mega Bloks Call of Duty sets, you will find one distinct difference between that Mega Bloks set, or a Mega Bloks tank, and a Cobi tank. The build books look comparable. It's more of the Mega Bloks style build book opposed to a Lego style build book. They look comparable, but more like a Lego build book. There is less going on each page. Where when you look at the Mega Bloks build book, you will have not only put this brick here, this brick here, this brick here, and this other brick, but they also have brick going on top of it. Oh, I hadn't built a Mega Bloks set in a while, and then I was just doing one. I said, oh, man, I need to build a Cobi set. Also, a couple people have mentioned, hey, you know, Oxford has some new tanks out. Yes, I have seen them. I think I saw 2 of them, and I ordered one, and it will be here hopefully in the next couple days. But from looking on the outside of that package on the Oxford set for online, it has almost, I don't know, 40% to 50%, or wait, no, sorry. It has almost double, or 60 to 70% more pieces in that tank than in a Cobi tank. You can see with these bricks laid out here on the table, yeah, there's some small bricks, but there's also some bigger bricks too. Cobi will not, or at least they have not in the past, or not doing it now, they are not inflating their brick count. To me, there is nothing worse than a brick set, but definitely a brick tank, but a brick set in general, where they have a bunch of teeny tiny little pieces where a bigger piece would do the job actually better and make it sturdier and more solid. Remember we had that problem when we built that Sluban aircraft carrier. The problems we had because there were so many teeny tiny bricks where it should have been bigger bricks that every time you put a brick in, especially a small one, and you're playing off that brick, and it kind of accordions on down the line, that any little bit of tolerance you're off, whether you don't get the brick in there enough, or if there's a piece with a problem with a piece, or something wrong with a mold, that each little teeny tiny microscopic, micro millimeter offset or thing that's off, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger down the line. So on that aircraft carrier, if you remember, we built the first half and the second half. You had to hook it together, and it wouldn't go together. It kept, boom, springing apart. It was like a spring-loaded. And that was because it used a bunch of teeny tiny pieces where, I mean, look at this here. We have these plates. The plates are good. You put the plate down, then you put the things for the wheels. You put the wheels coming out of it, then you put a plate on top of it. And then you stop and think and say, hey, did I forget something? And then you start taking pieces off and start over. I do that a lot on my builds. I usually don't have to go back more than a page or so, but I have a tendency to look at it and say, oh, I see what they're getting at, and then I just start building and say, oh, wait a minute, this isn't lining up. Okay, let me look and see what I did. But at least they're using a big plate here. It's not a huge plate, but it's a big plate, and it makes it sturdy and solid. That Mega Block set I was recently working on, we're making a chassis of a Humvee, and they should have used a plate like this, and they kept using teeny little pieces. And they were a pain to put together and to line up. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is horrible. I actually started filming that build, and about half an hour into it, I said, screw this, this sucks. So I'm not going to film that build, I'm just going to build it. And the difference of me building it when I'm filming it, here I'm at the studio and there's no air conditioning, we have a fan and it's not the same and it's hot. At least at home I can be in front of the TV with the air conditioner going. So in the background here, in addition to the fan, you can probably hear my laptop. My laptop is also humming away because I watch YouTube videos. I watch Leo Kim videos, YouTube Redback Spider videos while I'm building this. So a pause that you might see here, I might have seen something really exciting on the screen. Or I mean, I could be thinking, what in the world is going on here? Something I tend to forget is to make sure that this, well, it's going to be a tank, but this base plate with the things coming off it is orientated the same way as it is in the book. In other words, when the book says flip it upside down and do it this way, there's a lot of times say, okay, when I flip it upside down, I know what they're getting at, and then you just do it. Or if it says, hey, turn it left or turn it right, you say, okay, I see where they're getting at, but you got to remember where the front and where the back is. And if you can see how we're building up here, one of the good things about the Cobi sets is it's like the Lego designs or some of the older Lego designs, that when you put a piece down, you're not just relying on that one piece gripping, you're going to also brace it with some other pieces. And that's fairly standard for a Lego set, except, some of the expert sets, they'll call them expert sets. Sets with a bunch of teeny tiny little pieces so they can inflate the piece count and charge you a bunch more money. The expert sets, they tend to get in the same trouble that we talked about with that Sluban aircraft carrier. Obviously not to the extent of the Sluban, because the Sluban, although they are pretty good quality and almost Lego quality, they're not Lego quality. Wow. Sometimes when you're backtracking, it's like keep my little tool there. Yeah. There's something else you'll notice here. Where I am, that if you don't move around enough, the lights will click out. Now, I don't know how well it's really picking up on camera right now. There's the big we got the big overhead lights, but I also have my filming lights aimed too. So I don't know if it's every 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so. If you don't move, the movement sensor it doesn't sense you moving and it thinks you're not there and it shuts the lights off. So, obviously, I've had this problem before. So when we're doing a build video here, especially if it's a fairly big one, I mean more than, like a half-hour build, you are going to see times where I have to stop. And you can't just, from where I'm sitting, you can't just wave your arms around. You actually got to get up and move back and forth where the sensor can see you, and then they'll turn the lights on again. And really, for all I know, maybe it's not even going to affect the camera, affect the video that much. And yeah, so anyways, that's what I'm doing when you see me do that. And I really like how this is coming together. It's solid. You can see it being built up, and then you can feel it and say, wait a minute, by the time I'm done putting all these together, And yeah, it's not like a solid brick. There's also, let's say air gaps, but there's places that you're covering up. It is solid. This is as solid as if they gave you a chunk for a frame that looked like this. And that's very important because, look at this thing. You are going to make a toy that you are going to drive around and play with, and there's going to be certain stresses on these wheels because you have tank tracks and treads that are going to be playing off these. So it's important that you have a good, solid, sturdy base. The Cobi tanks, and there's several of them now, they actually look pretty good. Their quality is so-so. Cobi, kind of like Bestlock, will occasionally have one or two malformed or misformed bricks that look like they had a fail coming out of the mold. But other than that, they have some pretty cool tank sets, and they are definitely worth looking at. But the Cobi sets, there's two differences between the Cobi sets and these Cobi sets. The number one difference is Cobi likes to use a bunch of teeny tiny pieces, kind of like Mega Bloks has started to do. Because Mega Bloks didn't used to be that bad. When I built that Abrams tank, I didn't have this problem. When I built that LCAC, that landing craft, that air cushion landing craft, which I still have to make a video on that, we didn't have this problem. But then that newer Humvee I was building, even the original Humvee, we didn't have this problem. That newer Humvee I was building, it was horrible. It was a bunch of tiny pieces. Let's inflate the piece count so we can charge them more. Hooray! Yeah, we can use less plastic and make the set less sturdy and less playable, and we can charge more because it has a bigger piece count. Hooray! Or we can say, hey, our price per piece is lower than other people's. Yeah, and, charge the same amount of money and make people think they're getting a better value. So Cobi does that, and the other thing, Cobi does that, and the other thing Cobi does is with their build books, they're a lot like some of the Mega Bloks ones where you have an awful lot of stuff going on each page. I think where you have the Lego sets, where sometimes you have a page that it's not even telling you to put a brick on it. It says turn it, rotate it, 90 degrees. Or put one brick on or two bricks on. Wow, what a waste of a page. And then there's the other extreme, your Mega Bloks and your Cobis, that you got way too much going on. That's why I like the Cobi sets. There's not too much going on here. Something that I will do is, they are numbered. So you go from this part of the page to this part to that part. Sometimes I will just be looking, I'm drinking my coffee. Sometimes I will just be looking at what pieces I have, because you say, okay, we need this piece, this piece, this piece. So you lay them all out. And I might be looking at the wrong box, thinking I can just do that entire whole page out of order. And then, there is that sometimes. So I catch myself at that. I talk fast, I act fast, I work fast. Well, I don't do everything fast. Ting. Yeah, it was a rim shot thing. I don't have the drums here. But yeah, Cobi is the perfect center, the perfect medium, the perfect compromise between a build book that almost has nothing going on in some pages, Lego, and then this Cobi and Mega Bloks thing. Which, oh man, frustrating. So this is one of the World of Tanks sets. No, I do not play World of Tanks. Now, what's that other game? It's with like Navy ships or something. The thing about World of Tanks, it looks cool, and I also, really quick, and I think this comes with bonus codes or some kind of thing where you can play for free or you can do some stuff. Yeah, I don't have time. Now, would it be cool? Because I get these people leaving comments on my videos. I say, well, this is Sherman tank, or this is that, or this is this. I say, well, I play World of Tanks, and I know about an M60 Marine Corps tank. Or I know about an M1A an Abrams tank, because, I play World of Tanks. But you know what? I've walked beside a tank. I was in the Marines. When I first got in the Marines, we still had the old M60 tanks. The Marines have stuff longer than the Army. As they said in Heartbreak Ridge, make an elite fighting force. The Marines might be an elite fighting force, But we don't get the kind of money that, the Army or the Air Force is going to get, at least not at first. Because they figure we're going to hit the beaches first, most of us are going to get killed. Let's not waste the good equipment for something like that. Yeah, we got some good equipment, but the Marines is usually not the first to get something. Though we did get the Beretta 9mm, because the Marine Corps and the Army is the one who developed that Beretta 9mm and get rid of the 45s. And the Beretta 9mm was better because you had a 9mm round, you could carry more rounds, it was, But the old Colt 1911 45, I mean, you get shot with that 45 caliber round, it'd take your whole arm off. And I remember shooting those things. I shoot a lot of guns. You guys know I have a lot of guns. When I first got in the Marine Corps, we were still using the Colt 1911s, and you're shooting them things, and your wrist is hurting. Man, you got those 9mm. I mean, bam, pop a cap in your ass, because it was big difference. You put a 45 caliber round side by side with a 9mm round, and that's why most of the handguns, the handguns I carry now, they're all 9mm. No, not the 40 S&W. Everybody wants to have a 40 cal. That 40 is only slightly bigger than the 9mm, and it was the 40 S&W we call, and you know this, Worrell. The 40 S&W is called the 40 short and weak because it is based on that military 10mm round, which is the same diameter, only twice the size. So it's short and weak compared to the original military round it was based on. So, yeah, how do we start talking about that? So anyways, people tell me they know about tanks. Oh, yeah, you might know about tanks. You saw it online, and you can look up some specs on Wikipedia, or you saw it on the back of a brick box or something. And no, I haven't driven a tank, but I've ridden in a tank, and I've been, like I said, I've been with tanks. And as cool as the Abrams tank is, I mean, they're modern and fancy, everything. They had a problem early on because they didn't have air conditioning, and where I was based, you really needed air conditioning. But you got the M60s didn't have air conditioning either, so I guess that didn't matter too much. And they could go fast. You're talking about a tank go 50, 60 miles an hour, and boom, zooming across the sand. The problem is you had a whole convoy of fuel trucks that had to follow you because they didn't get miles to the gallon. They got gallons to the mile, So yeah, for all you tank experts, and usually it's a tank expert who wants to try to throw some specs at me to say how Cobi sucks or, Brickmania is the best thing ever. Yeah, okay. I'm not against World of Tanks or playing those guys. I just don't have time. I guess that was a long way to say, I just don't have time. I got work a 60 to 72 hour work week. We got videos to make. I got spiders to hunt down and kill. We got a lot of stuff going on. And of course we have to travel, right? And you can see with the part of the build, that we're at now, you have a good mix of smaller pieces and bigger pieces. Not too many tiny pieces or small pieces, and not too many big pieces. Because really, if you use too many big pieces and it takes you, and you can build it too quickly, and you say, what's the point of that? That was a waste of my money. It only had 150 pieces. That sucked. And it would be pretty heavy because those big pieces, there's a lot of plastic there. You'd have a lot of weight. Where the smaller pieces, that's where you make the what do you call that? In the ship, it'd be a coffer to him, but it's coffered or honeycombed or something. So there's air pockets in there. Anyways. So if you had a bunch of big pieces, it would be one heavy piece of plastic. And thankfully, everything that's important and structural here is braced in, not just by its own studs, but by something else, crossing over it. Because remember in the old days, when Lego built they designed a set, things would always overlap in such a way that you didn't have seams all in one place. But then when they went to smaller and smaller bricks in their builds, then it was kind of hard to do that. So it's always good to have some of these bigger pieces that, you got 5 little pieces coming off here, put a bigger piece across it, bam. I mean, that's as sturdy as anything's ever going to be. About these World of Tanks sets, yeah, it's actually coming around starting to look like a tank now. So about these World of Tanks sets, World of Tanks rollout, They cost a little bit more than the standard Cobi Small Army set. Now, there's still a Cobi Small Army set, but it's a Small Army World of Tanks set, and it comes in an oranger box. I have done, I don't know, half a dozen, so about 6 of these newer World of Tanks sets, and probably about, 16 or so, I don't know, almost 3 times as many of the standard Cobi brick tanks. But I don't know if there's a quality difference. You know, like you have Mega Block sets, and then you have the Mega Blocks Pro Builder quality set, you know, and then the Call of Duty sets, you know, a higher quality Mega Block set. And there is a difference in the quality of a Pro Builder set compared to a standard set, or these, you know, licensed things like Call of Duty compared to just a standard Mega Block set. Remember we built that John Deere set? It wasn't horrible quality, but it definitely was not the same quality as a Pro Builder set or a Call of Duty set. So I don't know if we have actually a better quality with this World of Tank. And I don't think so, because the ones I built, it was just pretty much. And by quality, I don't mean in the brick design or the build or the bricks itself. And with Mega Blocks, there actually is a difference in the quality in the bricks and how they go together when it comes to when it comes to the difference between the standard Mega Block set and the upper end, high end. Ooh, this is cool. This tank has 2 motors. Yeah. I never did like the set you had to build the motors. You know, do I want to spend 20 minutes building a motor on a tank and it's going to be hidden? You're never going to see it. So I do like that these Cobi tanks come with these little motor pieces. Bam! Motor's built. Kazi sets? Yeah, you're building the motor and putting each little piston thing on there. And, these stupid lights. So yeah, I am not a fan of this. Yeah. Okay, I'll get the lights fixed. So where was I? Yeah, so I'm not a fan of when you have to build your own engine, especially because you're going to cover it up. So I learned with those Kazi sets where you're building that engine. I mean, you build an engine that has anywhere from 20 to 50 pieces, and it's somewhere nobody is ever going to see it. So you can say, yes, I know, because I'm a purist, and I know I built this, and it's got its fake motor, it has this, and it has that, it has all the pieces there, and no one's ever going to see it because it doesn't open up to get down in there, but by gum, I know it's there. Hey, more power to you if that's what you like. Me, on the other hand, I really like these pre-done, pre-built little plastic motor things. But what I'm getting at in the difference in quality is I don't know if the tank itself is more realistic. Because there is a Sherman, a standard Cobi Sherman, and then there is a World of Tanks Sherman. So it could be the overall aesthetic design and what the brick thing looks like. It could be that that is actually a better design. Or it might just be that it's a, World of Tanks set, so it's a licensed set. I will tell you this, if I haven't said it yet, I will tell you this. These World of Tanks Cobi Small Army brick sets compared to the regular Cobi Small Army brick set, they cost considerably more. Now, is it because they are newer, or is it because they got to pay for the licensing to use World of Tanks? Yeah, I could go either way. You say, yeah, it's good. And really, because it's good advertisement, because if you're not a World of Tank fan, didn't know anything about it, but you were a brick fan and saw really cool tanks, and, I learned about World of Tanks. I mean, that could be, but I think it's probably more the other way around, that you learned about World of Tanks, and then you saw there was a series of brick tanks from World of Tanks. I would say that's probably the case. And when I say they cost more, the standard Cobi brick tank you can now get for as low as, on Amazon, you can get for as low as $25, and I'm seeing them as high as maybe $40. The average price is between like $32 and $35-ish for the brick tank. But depending on which one it is. But when it comes to these World of Tanks sets, they are starting at about 42 or 44, and I've seen them as high as 68 or 75, with the average being about $47 or $48. So you're looking at $50 for a brick tank because it's World of Tanks compared to, roughly just over $30. And that's a big difference. Am I going to buy 2 sets for a $100 bill, or am I going to be able to buy 3 sets for a $100 bill? And it could also have something to do with, now that we have a World of Tanks product line, they're trying to make all the tanks from that product line, so they're making a lot of tanks that they would not have made before, would not have made prior. And there are some overlaps, like the Sherman and some of the other ones. There are some overlaps where it's the same thing. And I want to put them side by side, but I have to find where I put my Sherman tank. And I know you guys hated my Sherman tank. And you guys really hated the Ban-Bao Sherman tank. The Ban-Bao Sherman really didn't look like a Sherman. I mean, you could tell it was a Sherman because they said so. But, I mean, you could tell it was a Sherman tank, because it roughly resembled a Sherman tank. But these Cobi ones, they more than roughly resemble a Sherman tank. And it's too bad Cosi hasn't made a Sherman yet, because, like I said, the Cosi, they have a good attention to detail. That Cosi tanks will put any Brickmania tank to shame, really, but they just don't have the quality in the pieces. And with a lot of this global marketing, where you can buy these brick tanks, even though this isn't a Chinese brick tank, this is from Poland, it's made in the EU, Cobi is, but you could buy the Chinese brick tanks, your Sluban, your Cosi, your Ban-Bao, you could buy them from Hong Kong and China, and they weren't as readily available. First off, you had to know they existed, then you had to actually figure out how to buy them and get them here. They weren't expensive. Looks like a tank, right? They weren't expensive, but they were, not everybody didn't have one, everybody didn't know about them, so they weren't just like, everybody didn't have them. And that was back in the day when somebody would buy a Sluban tank, then they would reverse engineer it, they would copy the instructions, and then they would sell the instructions online as their own design. They'd make some modifications to it, maybe enough to say, hey, that's a cool looking tank, that you could put it side by side, say with that, put a Cosi tank that you modified side by side with a standard Cosi tank, and you wouldn't know it's the same because you put some little bells and whistles and doohickeys on it. It was the same, basically you stole their designs. People do that. Ouch. Then as they started, I hate those little tiny pieces. Then as they started getting more and more popular, that's when people actually started really even doing that more, but then people saw them. Really quick, right here where you saw that piece pop off, when I built one of my first early Cobi sets, and we're talking a long time ago, it was a Cobi Jeep, I think it was the winter one. So it was actually a Jeep branded with Jeep, where they actually paid for the licensing use to do this Jeep as a military combat Jeep. And on the back you had the fuel cans, and you had to put this thing on the back of the Jeep. And there was something slightly off with the tolerances on that, because every time I kept popping, it was one of the little 2-stud pieces. Every time I popped that little 2-stud piece up, bam, it would spring up. I couldn't get to stay on. I don't mean it would just it'd fall off. I mean, that thing would spring 2, 3, 4 feet in the air. What? Nah, you just let the stress on it. It was still at that point, the Cobi sets I found were pretty much Sluban quality. Good enough, because these are sets that Lego won't make, and they don't make them. So if you want this set, don't tell me go to Brickmania. Yeah, so if you want this set, instead of spending $200 or $300 for it, here you can get it from Cobi. Back then, I think that set was like $21. In fact, $21 was more than I wanted to pay for it. I think it's like $14 for that set now, and they've redone it, so it's better. But yeah, the Cobi small army quality, I won't say of yesteryear, but of 5 or 6 years ago, is definitely not as good as it is now. It's not as good as it is 3 years ago, because 3 or 4 years ago is when Cobi started coming out with the really cool military sets, and they've all been really good quality. Competition in anything makes everybody better. So if Lego is making a certain kind of brick set, and then some other companies are making a certain kind of brick set, not copying them or ripping off their design, but also making them, it makes Lego just have to think a little bit harder and use a little bit more more brain power, say, how can I make this set better? How can I make people want to buy my set instead of this other set for, half the price or two-thirds the price? And something you will see when it comes to Chinese brick sets, it's really common with the Chinese military brick sets, the tanks and everything, and Chinese toy manufacturers in general. They are, and Alibaba, they are not known for having original designs. They tend to like to play lawlessness in the Wild West and just, I'm going to say steal somebody else's design. We're just going to take somebody else's design. If you go way back to those Woma tanks I was building, those Woma tanks, and man, it's weird if you start tracing the lineage of some of these Chinese brick sets. I think they just keep, when they go out of business, they just reopen the factory under a different company name. So the Woma sets were, I think, they were actually direct rips. They were clones. Yeah, that's a nice way to say it. They were clones of, I think, it was a Spanish brick company. I want to say, was it called Scorpion? Or I can't think of what it was, of an older Spanish brick company from, from Spain. From the 1980s, I think. Late 80s, early 90s, maybe. And then you could start finding some sets that were marked Woma and Jublix or something. And just like you had some that were Wang and Jublix, so you have all these, a lot of crossover. And then Oxford, they're a Korean company, and remember, I found out, they have the new tanks coming out, and I ordered one of them, because they were fairly expensive. Oxford makes some really good quality brick sets, and they're generally Mega Bloks quality, a little better, at least in the military sets. I don't know about the other Oxford sets. Well, Sluban sets are direct clones, that's the word we're using. Many of the Sluban military sets were direct clones of those Oxford sets. I made a video where I put a couple of those sets. I think it was that multiple missile launcher, I don't know what it's called, M2, whatever, M270? Yeah, I think it's called an M270 multiple missile launcher thing, tracked vehicle. I put the Oxford one side by side with a Sluban one, and there was just slight differences maybe in the color of the bricks, but identical. And that Korean, it's called K4 tank or K whatever tank, which was a variant of the M1 Abrams or something. Anyways, or the M155 howitzer. Yeah, I digress. Regardless of that, of the four that I bought the tank in both Oxford and Sluban, they were identical, except in the price, because the Sluban one was costing me about between $20 and $29, and the Oxford one ran between $50 and $75. Here in the U.S., one of the problems you have with Oxford is there's not a lot of importers of it. Yeah, you could find them at Toys R Us and I think Target, because you have here in the U.S. it's IMEX Oxford. I think that's who has been importing them. But still, they're not like everywhere. It's not like, Cobi sets are getting to be everywhere. It's not like a Lego set or Mega Block set that you can just go into anywhere. And then Walmart had some of the low-end ones. Like, remember that A10 Warthog we built? I built one a long, long time ago, real super early on. I got it at Walmart for $5, and then I wanted to build it again, because I'd already given that away. We're talking years and years ago. And then I wanted to build it again, build another one. I found one online for $30-some, the exact same thing, just marked with a different company name, the exact same set. Yeah. So, Chinese, I don't want to say there's a little too much incestuousness when it comes to the Chinese brick companies. I think it's really just one or two big brick companies all just going under different names. But remember, Cobi's not a Chinese brick company. You know how many? Well, in the Chinese brick company, like I said, they're getting better. People say, man, you're talking bad about Chinese brick company. No, I'm just saying how it is. Like Sluban, the quality has become amazing compared to what it was. And many of the Mega Bloks sets, some are made in Canada, but a lot of parts are made in China. And what I found with the Mega Block sets, which was really funny, I ordered a Mega Bloks, that Striker jet. I ordered that online, building a tank. I ordered that online, and it shipped from Europe, and it was made in Canada. And I ordered another one of those a while, I don't know, maybe a month later, and it was from here in the U.S., and it was made in China. So that was weird. The Canadian ones were going to Europe, and the Chinese ones were coming here to America. You know, go figure. Yeah, so that was yeah, I got a phone call. Yeah, I normally don't carry a cell phone, but I am holding a friend's cell phone for them. And, ouch, lights. All right, so I normally don't carry a cell phone. Turd! I should put this poop thing there. This poop. I should put this poop emoji there every time. I should put this poop thing here every time the lights go out. But yeah, I don't carry a cell phone. Yeah, I'm tired of being contacted 24 hours a day. People can just leave a message. I don't care. But I was holding a friend's cell phone. And so I didn't even get the phone. I just had to turn the dang thing off. Anyways, with the long rant we've been going on, is a lot of the Chinese sets are direct rip-offs, and it doesn't make them bad sets, but, you know, depending on the company. So with the Cosi tanks, I don't know if they're rip-offs of some other company's tank, or if they're original designs, or what the deal is. But the problem you may remember with the Cosi tank design, the track and their tank tracks, or tank tread design, was kind of a, I don't want to say it's a rip, but it's the same style as the Lego ones, where the tracks on the, there it goes. The tracks on the Cobi tanks are a better design. We've made videos about it, and then I've had people tell me I suck and I'm full of it. But these were people who've never actually put together a Cobi tank. They've never actually got to physically touch and play with the tracks and treads and realize, hey, that they really are that good. Because, I have to say generally speaking now, and you'll know why in a minute, because generally speaking, the tank tread and track design on a Cobi tank is meant to be sloppy and have slack, and then you can just grab that, and you can drive it anywhere you want to, and they will spin. They don't pop off, because they got a groove and a tongue and groove thing going. And they actually go together more comfortably, and they're easier to put together than that Lego style. Now, the Lego style tank tracks are designed to fit snugly. They are held on, you know, they pop together. It's a pain how they pop together. But once you pop them together, it's just like a rubber tank track would be on the Chinese sets, except for Cosi, which is, like I said, using the Lego design. It's, by design, it's held on by the tension of the tank tread. So if you want that to spin, you got to be on a surface that you can push down to get it to spin. Whereas the Cobi sets, since it's a slack design, you could, I've showed it, you know, you can drive it over your cat, over your dog, on the carpet, on a blanket, on your bed, over the pillow, over the desk, over the table. Much better design. Now I had to say generally, because I built one of these brick tanks, and I'll have that video up someday. I built one of these brick tanks last week, and it didn't have the standard Cobi tank tread track design. It had a design very similar to, and I'm thinking of something here, very similar to a Lego set or the Cosi design. And now what I mean, I'm thinking of something, man, do you think it was a clone? You think it was actually a fake, a rip-off of a Cobi set? Saying it was, no, I mean, it couldn't be. I don't know what they were doing or what it was, but I was getting a little frustrated. It all has to do with how they swing and how they spin, and we'll talk more about that on a different video. But no matter what, it's still, these these brick tanks that, you know, the little treads, each little piece goes together, whether it's a Cobi design or the Lego design, it is still better than the old rubber tank track designs. Because remember, essentially that was like putting a rubber band against the wheels, and it put a considerable amount of stress on your two-end drums there, your two-end wheels. And it was very stressful for it that in some of the sets, like, I don't know, if it was Ban Bao and some of the other sets, Enlighten, they made sure to have, like, metal axles coming out on the two-end ones because it would snap. It was so tight that it would snap plastic off, and you could rarely get those rubber tank tracks to spin. You'd have to push down really hard on a table to get them to spin. It was horrible. But the Cobi tank track design is much better than the Lego one, and you can watch that video, but really, buy one for yourself. You can get one of the Cobi ones. Make sure it's the right one. So ask me if you want to know. Because yeah, that really suck if the one you bought happened to be that one that wasn't the right design that I just talked about. So you spend the $20 or $30 and you buy the Cobi one and you said, wow, this really is a lot better. How come Lego doesn't make it? Instead of being mad at some of these companies for doing something different than Lego, how about maybe be mad at Lego for just going to a certain level and saying, okay, it's good enough, we're not going to keep designing or getting better? Because it's kind of, well, it's disingenuous, but it's kind of funny to look as an outsider that when somebody says, well, you know, this sucks because it's not like Lego. Well, you know, it's better than Lego. It doesn't matter. It's not Lego. It sucks. Okay. And then that same person would say, you know, that sucks. That's a direct rip-off copy of Lego. So, you know, it's not Lego. It sucks. I said, yeah, but it's identical Lego. It's just like Lego. Yeah, but you know what sucks? Well, come on. Be honest. Which, not backtracking here at all. So be honest. What difference, if it's the same or if it's different, it just comes down to, what's the difference? The difference is it just comes down to, I don't like it because it's not Lego. Well, why is that? Lego didn't invent the plastic brick. Lego isn't even the first brick company. They're just the most popular brick company. And yeah, you get all these new companies coming out now and that you may never have heard of. But looking back, like that Scorpion or whatever that Spanish company was, these are brick companies that I never knew existed. They don't even exist anymore. Woma, because really as Woma, as we knew it for the old sets, they're gone. They're now some other new company. But there were a lot of brick companies that are no longer here that made some really cool sets. And I am glad that Sluban and some of these other companies are making their old sets. Because if Lego went out of business tomorrow where they closed up and they said, don't tell me they won't what. I'm just saying if they decide, hey, we don't make bricks anymore, we are done, bam, I would certainly hope some other companies would start making, you know, here's the Harry Potter castle, here's Hogwarts School, here's this, here's that. I would really be, well, I'm sure somebody would. All the Chinese companies would say, now we can make rip-off Lego sets and Lego won't complain. So, yeah. I am glad that some of these companies go out of business, that there are other brick companies stepping up and making it. I mean, look at this. It's starting to look like a tank. It looks pretty cool. You can definitely tell that it's a tank right now. Remember that one, what was it? Was it a Ban Bao set? And it started off looking like a tank, and then it was a scoop or a crane thing up on top. And we say, you know what? They just took their standard tank design, made it yellow or orange brick so it didn't look like a tank. And then they put a crane or a Treco scoop on top. And I thought, you know, that's stupid. And it was kind of sloppy. The tolerances was off on that too. But then I did some research on it. And it turns out, wait a minute, this is amazing. Because I think it was like after World War II, where Russia had a lot of tanks, they started taking the tank chassis and turning them into these things. So though it looked like a flat tank chassis like you're seeing here, painted, you know, like a piece of heavy equipment, and had that scoop or that crane thing on the top, that was because that's what they really made in real life. That's what they're doing, taking old tanks and saying, hey, we don't need all these old tanks. Let's turn it into a piece of construction equipment. So at first I thought, well, this is a stupid design, a cheap ripoff, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is amazingly realistic, because this is what they actually did in real life. You know, when you open these bags, and I know I'm not the only person, You ever notice how certain bricks come in certain bags? Sometimes it's that flimsy, really brittle stuff like this, easy to tear off, and then sometimes it's a, like this one here, it's a soft plastic. It's the difference. Are they afraid of like the pointy parts of bricks breaking out or something? Do they come from different factories or different assembly lines? Because you would think all coming from the same factory in the same set, they would have the same style plastic. Because the soft plastic that I'm opening here, compared to the little brittle ones that you gotta kind of tear like a piece of paper, opposed to ripping like plastic. Yeah, I've never understood that. And you see this in Lego sets too. It's something that's common with all the brick sets, and I don't know why. And it probably has some really stupid reason, or not stupid, but some obviously simple reason. Well, it's because of this, stupid. Okay, well, I didn't know. But yeah, I've always wondered that. And don't tell me, I mean, yeah, if you know, leave the answer in the comment section, but don't tell me, well, it's because that's how they do it. No, that is not a good enough answer. Everybody does something for a reason. Well, most people, yeah, I mean, everybody does something for a reason, right? There's got to be a reason they're doing it like that. Is the one kind of plastic more expensive and we're able, yeah, I don't get it. So really, I would say, if you haven't put a Cobi tank together, I mean, give it a chance. I can't speak to much more of the Cobi sets, because really I haven't built many Cobi sets in a long time that wasn't a military or a tank set. And also, we'll talk about it really quick. You know how I hate the Cobi minifigs. Why are the Cobi minifigs, why are they horrible? Why are the Banbao minifigs horrible? Why? Well, we'll tell you why. It's obvious. If you notice, the Enlightened minifigs look pretty much like direct rip-offs of the Lego minifigs in their design and style, except they have different faces and they have more of an Asian look to it. Well, yeah, there are these brick sets that were made in China for the Chinese market. They were never really designed, or they never really thought they were going to be selling these overseas. So you could say, hey, we made these minifigs. We never thought we'd get in trouble by copying Lego's minifig design. And I believe years ago there was a lawsuit, and I don't remember if the EU was if it was the EU that did it or some country in Europe. But they confiscated, a couple containers of the minifig. Anyways, it was ruled it was a patent violation on the minifig design, not on the brick design. A lot of people say, yeah, there's a lawsuit, and you have really cool tank track pieces here. And each of these bags, one bag is for each side. And when you count them out, it'll say how many you need, and then you count it out, and then you do one track at a time, because they always have some extras for you. Now, what they have here is they will take some of the pieces of track and they will mount them on the outside of the tank. Now, sometimes I think it's design, sometimes it's like real life, because in real life, you could break a track or throw a track, and you had to have the spare little chunks of track that you could put together. And they have these big tools called tank bars. They're big, 6, 7, 8 feet long, big, like 1 to 2.5 inch diameter steel poles with a pointy end on one side and a flat end for pry on the other side. And they use these to pry things and wheels off and tanks to fix tank treads. It's called tank bars. Oh, they're horrible to use. I mean, they are heavy. Talking 100 pounds, 150 pounds worth of heavy. But if you want to, go look at a real tank tread in real life. A lot of times, if you see a tank track in real life, if it's on a display model, I mean, like if you had like a fair or a air show or something, they have the tanks there. They will have the tank tracks with those rubber things put on them. So if you're somewhere in, anywhere, U.S., Europe, Asia, if you're somewhere where you will see the tanks driving on the streets, they will have those rubber things hooked onto the tank treads. That's to keep the tank tracks from just tearing up the asphalt or concrete road. Lights! All right, so that'll keep it from tearing up the roads. If you just drove across the road without those rubber things out there, and I think they're called street tracks or street treads. I guess it depends on where you are and what military service you're in. But if you drove over the road with the standard metal tracks, you will just tear that road up. So when you see those rubber tracks on it, that's not what they are using in real life in combat. They're using the steel one, just digging in. And have a really funny tank story. When I was in the Marine Corps, I had this crappy old car. It's an old Datsun. Now this thing, I mean, it was just beat up, but it was affordable. Got really good gas mileage. And we would just take off across the desert in the sand. And if you got in too deep of sand, that it was just, the tires are all dug in, and you're just revving that engine. And that engine's screaming, and you're only going like 5 miles an hour, barely going through. And then if you stop, you'd be in trouble. But if you did stop, that car was so small and light, everybody could jump out of the car, and you could actually lift. It was rear-wheel drive. You could lift it and bounce it and push it and get it out of the sand, and and you wouldn't stop. You just keep going forward, and everybody'd jump in the car when it was moving. So we used to go. There was a mountain off base, and we would go up to this high mountain. We had this little tiny TV, and there was no TV reception. You always had had cable. You had to plug in and do cable. So there's really no TV reception, but it went on top of that big high mountain out in the desert, and it was like a Jeep trail to get up there. It was kind of dangerous. You'd get up on top of that mountain, you'd get some TV reception, and we would watch Saturday Night Live and a couple TV shows, and then, goof around out in the desert for a while, and then head back to base. So there was a place on base, which we didn't know what it was used for, because the tank battalion was next door to our unit, and we weren't a tank battalion. And we were out driving around, I don't know, it was a Saturday night or a Friday night, so we took off. First we went on the dirt bike track, and the dirt bike track was pretty good. And we went on that, and then we kind of headed off into the desert on base. And there's an oasis, and an oasis out in the desert, it's not like you see in the cartoons. It's not like a bunch of palm trees with this little pond or a little lake and some camels and some, some tents and some of them girls doing belly dances or something. In real life, an oasis is generally just out in the middle of the desert. Here's a little bit of greenery you'll see, maybe a palm tree or two, and a little greenery, and then there will be either just a small little puddle of stagnant standing water, or there will be just not even that. You'll just have a damp spot in the ground, and I guess if you dig down, you'd find some water. I mean, obviously there's water there. That tree and that stuff wouldn't be growing. So there was a stand of trees out through this deep sand, and we were out there for a while, and you're just sitting around BSing, and then we decided, okay, we got to get back to the barracks. So we get in the car, and I kind of pull out of this clump of trees, and out in the deep sand. It's deep sand. You just got to rev it, and then I looked around, and we ended up in a tank column, and it wasn't really a column because they were in formation. They were doing night maneuvers out there. You had LAVs, you had tanks, and you had some Amtraks, and there was up in front of me, because you can see the dust cloud, and then off maybe 50, 60 feet to the right of us, or actually, yeah, to the right of us, and then behind us, and they didn't have their lights on. They had, they're running, their night running. And what in the world? I'm just oh man, let's hope this car doesn't stall. Let's hope I don't get stuck. And then I was able to get to a spot where we could pull off where the ground was solid. And then, what in the world was that? And we sat there and watched, I don't know, maybe 50 vehicles go by. You know how much trouble we'd have got in? And yeah, I'm guessing that whoever was in charge, if they were, whatever they were riding in, whether it was a command Humvee or a tow missile Humvee or one of the LAVs, that they obviously didn't see us. And it's possible. I mean, so we weren't like close enough to touch them, but we were within, at one point, 20 feet of a tank. And yeah, I'm sure if they even saw us, that they were probably laughing. What the heck is this car doing out here? Yeah. So yeah, that was my funny off-road tank car driving desert story. Now you'll notice on a lot of these, pretty much every Cobi tank I've built, I want to say they go together the same, but they don't. They have some commonalities. Now you'll have your two, I don't know what these are called, your two big end spools on either side. They have a name. I'm Sure they do. If you're a tanker out there, or you know about tank parts, or look it up on Wikipedia, you'll be able to tell them what their name is. But those two big main spools, would those be the drive spools? So those are definitely bigger and sturdier, and they go together. So the pieces I'm seeing in this set are very common pieces, but something I've noticed in this last run, because in the last, like I said, last few weeks I've put together, I want to say 5 or 6 tanks, that they have all the same pieces, but there's just some slight differences on how these wheels and hubs and rollers are going together. It's, well, I don't know if it's really neat or if it's kind of, I don't know. Because what they're actually going for here is they're saying, we are expecting people to buy every one of these tanks, and we don't want to make the build of this to be identical for each tank. We want people to enjoy the variety of how these go together. And that's kind of neat, but for me, with my limited time, I just want to put these things together, man. If I could snap my fingers and go, bam! That, to me, would be optimal. Now the part I'm working on here, you can see there's in the past on some of the sets, I don't want to say they were horrible, but it kind of sucked a little bit. On the end of the tank, it's kind of like the fender things come out a little more, front and back. And this pops on from the underneath. And sometimes on some of the sets, depending on how the set is designed, that's all that holds it on. It's squeezing up for underneath, and it's not braced at all. And like I said, whether it's a Cobi set, or a Lego set, a Mega Block set, or a Slew Band set, that's a precarious place to be putting a brick. Because you've seen it in Lego sets too. They put some brick somewhere that looks good, but if you bump them or touch them, they're going to fall off because it's not a lot of studs holding them on. And that's when, Lego started getting away from, okay, we'll put this underneath like there, and then we'll cross brace it so it's being held on somewhere else. I mean, you could modify it, design it yourself. But I don't remember in the old days, and I don't remember it being that way in the old days. See, you pop it in from the bottom, and this is good because you've got 6 studs holding that on. I've done some where you only have 2 studs holding it on, or 4. So that makes this a much solider design. And like I said, I've put together, man, if you add them all up, probably a total of, probably at least 20 of the Cobi tanks, and no 2 have gone together the same. No 2 are identical. So they're giving quite a bit of thought on their design, because really, when you're just making the base unit here, without the turret or any other weird stuff for a standard tank, except for some of the pieces you're going to put on the outside, it should be pretty much the same. So they're actually giving some real thought on how they're making the design. Now you'll see on the book here, if you can see the book, they have, you get these the wheels and the drums and stuff, and they'll put a drum with like a red X saying, don't use this one. And they do it with, when you have the small 1 stud, little kind of sloped up 45 or something degree angle, little diagonal pieces, little triangle pieces. So they'll have tall ones and short ones and medium ones sometimes, and they will even tell you which ones. They'll say, hey, it's a short one. And they will tell you not with words, they will tell you with a picture. They'll show a short one and a medium or a tall one, or a short one and a tall one, and they'll put an X through the one you're not supposed to use. Because really, remember, this is designed by somebody speaking Polish or something. Well, I'm sure they speak. Most people outside the United States can speak English. It's just people here in the United States. I mean, I used to be able to speak German, and I can speak some Spanglish. And I used to be able to speak some Japanese, and I could actually speak some Korean, but my Korean got me in trouble quite a bit. So I barely speak English. But yes, and you see that with the ads for the Chinese brick sets too, online on Amazon, these other places. Hey, it doesn't matter if you can't speak the language. Anybody can build these sets. It's not in Chinese or Mandarin or was it Mandarin? So there's no words really needed. Oh yeah, and I'm really impressed so far with this brick tank here. There has been nothing paint, and the part I'm doing now, when you do those underneath parts, those are the ones that even on some of the best sets, they are just a pain. I haven't run across anything really that's been a pain yet on this set. My biggest pain has been me not moving around for where my Dave table is set up. I guess if I set up in the dead center, my studio light wouldn't click off. The biggest problem I have is the lights want to keep clicking off on me. That, and I got to make sure that I'm actually on the front fender and back fender, because as I said, I don't keep changing the orientation of the thing like I should. But hey, it happens. And also, I think I started saying this earlier, but I didn't finish this thought. I have to complete this entire build in one sitting. Where before I could start a build and maybe get it half done, maybe do bag 1 or bag 1 and 2, and then, finish up bag 3, which a lot of times it's the turret. Finish up, at a later time, put everything in a Ziploc bag, put it in one of those shoebox-sized little Rubbermaid containers, and I can get back to it. Since we've had Black Widows, no, I have to take it apart, sit here, build the whole dang thing, and then that's it. Now, here's something really neat with this set, really quick. This actually has little rubber pieces that are going to go on top of the drums. I'm pretty sure this is a first. See these little rubber pieces? This is a first. I mean, maybe. I don't remember ever seeing this in a Cobi set before. You would think with those little rubber pieces, that would give you traction, that even if your tank tracks came off, that you could zoom across the table or the floor. But, I don't know if this is a Cobi design thing, or if this tank, what is it, the IS-2, if this tank in real life actually had or has some rubber things over those drums. Because this is the first time I have seen this. And like I said, it could just be part of the variety that Cobi puts into the building of the tanks. It's gonna say it's interesting. It is interesting. I mean, it's kind of bizarre. Like I said, I built a bunch of these things, and never are two the same. They'll have some similarities, the fender things and how the drums are and everything, but they're definitely all different. And for those of you who are purists and who like building sets, you can build 10 different tanks and not only end up with 10 things that look completely different, because they're different kind of tanks, but also the builds were not monotonous. Like when we did, remember when we built that McFarlane Walking Dead prison cells, and you had an upper cell and a bottom cell, and here we're making 6 upper cells and 6 bottom cells, so it was 6 identical builds. So the first build takes about an hour and a half, and then by the time you've got it down to about build number 3 or 4, you're putting one of them together, bam, in under half an hour, because you got used to it. It was a little monotonous and kind of a pain, but you're getting what you're getting. It's not like, with this, that, you build 10 tanks, and each of these tanks is a little different build, and it's kind of interesting. Oh yeah, before the lights went out, we were talking about the minifigs, and then there was that patent, lawsuit thing for Lego, and for, Enlightened copying their minifigs, and they were confiscated, and then the court said, yes, that is a patent violation. The bricks are not a patent violation. Lego does not own the basic Lego brick design. If you remember the story, it was Kitty Craft, they designed the brick, Lego found it, hey, and they ran with it and said, let's go, it's good design. They started using it. Eventually, Lego bought the company that had bought the company that bought the company that had bought Kitty Craft. So, years and years, I don't know if this was like in the 90s or whatever this was, or early 2000s. So eventually, Lego bought the company that held the original patent and owned the design of the brick. And then Lego said, well, yes, everybody can quit complaining because we now own that. Yeah, but you didn't all that other time, and you've been trying to sue people and attack people for saying they stole your brick design when it really wasn't your design. But, in fact, the Lego minifig design was patented, and they did own that. So if you hear about a lawsuit where Lego said, hey, those other bricks are ripoffs, it wasn't the bricks, it was the minifigs. Which explains why, like I said, the Lightened minifigs had an Asian look to them because, they were going to be sold in Asia. Which is why all the other companies started changing what their minifigs look like. You got the Ben Bao ones, which looks like these goofy little... Oh, man, they're horrible. They're horrible. They're like goofy looking kind of these midget things whose shoes come out of their kneecaps or something. And then there's the 100 lights. What movie was that? Was that The Fifth Element when that Egyptologist was down there looking at that temple and it was Aziz lights. That every time the kid who was holding the reflective thing to give him light would fall. So yeah. Well, the Mega Bloks ones, the Call of Duty, the modern Mega Bloks ones are amazing. And yeah, there was a lot of complaints they were hard to put together. And then some people said, no, I bought one the other day and they're not hard to put together. Yeah, because they redesigned them because there was a lot of complaints where people said I was stupid. And then Mega Bloks admitted, yeah, we have a problem with these minifigs. To the extent that some of the other product lines that use those same minifigs, that some of the other product lines that use those same style minifigs, they all came fully assembled. Unlike with the Call of Duty ones, where you used to just get that one that was fully assembled and then had to put the others together. People were using light bulbs and heating up the because the ball had to go in the socket. They were heating it up with a light bulb and kind of melting it, making it soft to pop it in, and running hot water on it, throwing it in a microwave. There was a lot of things people were doing that you shouldn't have to do. So yes, there's a problem. And about putting things in a microwave really quick. The other day at work, I took an ice cream out of the refrigerator. The half gallon or the gallon of ice cream. I was gonna have some ice cream, and it looked all melted. And I said, "What the heck's going on?" And someone said, "Yeah, instead of using the ice cream scoop, someone keeps taking that ice cream container and putting it in the microwave to soften it up." Well, yeah, it makes it easy to scoop, but then you have melted ice cream. Oh, it's bizarre. Who puts ice cream in the microwave to soften it up? Go down and buy one of them flat ice cream scoops, and then here's what I do. I run it under semi-warm water really quick and then scoop it out. Look, go to Baskin Robbins or one of these ice cream places. What do? They keep that thing in the water and it glides right through the ice cream. Don't put ice cream in a microwave. I mean, what the heck is up with that? So anyways, all the other companies have these goofy-looking minifigs, including Cobi. Now, what I like about the Mega Bloks, that new design minifig, the fancy one, they look realistic. No, they don't look like a Lego minifig, but they look realistic, and they look real. And when it comes to the sets I'm building, I kind of like realism. I'm not against the standard Lego minifig design. Yeah, it's cool. But we've already decided, and I already defined the fact, that brick companies can't use the Lego standard minifig design or they are infringing on Lego's patent for them. So being that's the case, we can maybe dislike some of the other minifig designs, but we can't hate all of them because what's the alternative? It's back to that thing. I hate it because it doesn't look like Lego. But if it looked like Lego, you'd say, I hate it because they stole the idea from Lego. We're back to that being, what do they call that? Being intellectually honest. And really it means, hey, just tell the truth. So yeah, I am not a fan of any, really, like I said, except for those Mega Bloks ones, I am really not a fan of any of the minifigs. For a while, the Oxford and the Sluban minifigs were very Lego-esque. I mean, not like Enlightened, which except for the heads, the faces, they were almost direct rip-offs of the... Oh, and you know what? You see it a lot in the Chinese brick companies' minifigs. Your Slubans, your Wolmas, your, enlightens, you gotta put them things together from scratch. Unlike, Lego, where it comes with the upper torso and it comes with a head and you put a hat or hair on the person and then you put their legs together. Which reminds me, when I got those Olympic minifigs, remember the commemorative Olympic minifigs from that London Olympics, and they sent it to me, and I think it was the archer or something, didn't have any legs or didn't have a torso or something. What was up with that? I was really mad at that retailer. So unlike being a simple to put together minifig, you could say this is really for really purists who love it. You had to build your minifig. You got to pop the arms in. Okay, well, the arms, they go in pretty good at the shoulder. You got to put the leg, you got the mini torso part, and you got to put the legs into the pelvis, into the hip bone. That wasn't horrible. But you had to put the hands into the arms, and that's horrible, because you got one of 3 outcomes. Well, probably more. One of 4 outcomes. You got sometimes they go in super easy and they won't stay in, but normally they go in super, super hard, and you got to push it against the table or something really, and it can't be like a soft table. It's got to be like a hard, sturdy table, and you're pushing to get to pop in, and sometimes it won't go all the way in, and their wrists look really long. And then sometimes they break when you're doing that. Oh, that's the one thing I hated forever about the Chinese minifigs in general, is that, I don't want to have to build my own minifig from scratch, And I'll say it here, and I say it in all the videos. I really don't care too much about the minifigs, so I'm not going to do a whole lot. Sometimes I'll plop them together, sometimes I don't, but really, people say, show us the minifigs, Just, if you have a tank like this, just use a standard Lego minifig with it. Now, if you just need a minifig because you want to have a minifig, then the minifigs that come in a Cobi or a Sluban or an Enlighten or any other ones, they're good enough. And at least with Cobi, and I don't know about Light now, they might have changed, but generally, they are different enough from the Lego ones not to be infringing on the patents. But then again, if you go to Alibaba or AliExpress or even Amazon, you can get the knockoff Lego minifigs made in China, identical to the Lego minifigs. I try to count them out by 5s because if I try to count out, all 64 or 30 some that they need, whatever it is, I'll just get too confused. So count out by 5s or 10s, and then you just put them in a pile and make sure you have enough. And then I will build, instead of putting the track together, each piece in one big long thing, I'll build it in sections and then plop those together. And like I said, this is the really cool design. Anyways, if you go all those places online, remember the Guardian of the Galaxy knockoff minifigs? They were identical. And there's plenty of them companies, we made the videos on the Ninjago and all these ones. They're just total rip-off of the Lego design. And did I buy them? Yes, I did. Because they were considerably cheaper. Not just considerably cheaper, you were able to buy them, where the Lego, you had to buy them like in a set generally, and these things you can just outright buy. I don't mean buy them, you got to buy them in a set. And remember the Harry Potter ones? You had to collect all these different Harry Potter sets to end up with all the minifigs, but yet some of the minifigs were in each of the sets. So I got 12 Harry Potters and 3 Hermiones, and I got this Dumbledore, and I got this guy and that guy. And it wasn't the Weasley twins, it was like the Weasley quintuplets or something by the time you were done. So actually everybody was like a twin or a quintuplet or a quadruplet or an octagon or whatever they have. So sometimes you say, hey, how about we just be able to buy a set of 16 minifigs for Harry Potter, don't include them in the sets, just sell it to us like that. And not for $50. Do it to us also for $12 or $13. So that's what a little wiggle. This is what a tank track looks like. And if I ever do film one of the ones, or like a Kazi one, putting it together and showing, I've made the video comparing them side by side, showing the difference of the design, and you've seen that. You can go and look for it if you haven't. But I should show you side by side how easy it is to build it compared to that other older design, that Lego style design. That Lego style design is harder to put together. I don't think it's as sturdy. It's harder to put together. It's not as flexible. And really, that other design, I don't know how well that would work on a slack design tank track system. So yeah, I'm really impressed with this style. But when it comes to the minifigs, we'll just, you guys already know, when it comes to minifigs, bam, I don't really want a lot to do with them. Because if I'm going to film Lego Tank Wars or some kind of video using these tanks, whether it's stop motion or animation, or, I'm going to use After Effects and put, stuff on there, like I do, like you see the, remember, well, you've seen it at the beginning of this video where I got, yeah. I'm not going to be moving the minifigs around. They might be on the tanks or in the vehicles or something, but yeah, I'm not going to be doing a thing with the minifigs. My days of stop motion are pretty much over. I did a little bit of it. I don't have the time. Because there's some really cool Lego stop motion, Call of Duty videos out there. We've all seen them, and wow, that'd be cool. And then you put some After Effects on there, and then they're amazing. But really, who has that kind of time? I know I don't. I guess I could quit my job so I can just stay and do that all the time. But, there's something that, I'd like to eat. I'm sure my cats would like to eat. My family would probably like to eat, so I can't quit my job to stay home and build Lego sets all the time. But I guess I could stay out of the water sometimes when I go to Hawaii, and then I won't get all banged up and not be able to build Lego sets for 3 or 4 months. There is that. And yeah, up until I went to Hawaii that time, I hadn't really put a lot of Lego sets together. Coffee time. Which, for coffee time, it is a sugar-free vanilla 4-shot brevet. If you don't know what a brevet is, look it up. It's like a latte, only creamier. And the sugar-free is like the sugar-full, but, ooh, this is beautiful, but sweeter. Or is it sweeter? No, I don't need the sugar because I'm sweet enough already. Yeah. Beautiful tank tracks. So we're going to put these on. You're going to notice that it's a tongue and groove thing. So you took those 2 drums and you put it on there. And this part here can be kind of a pain. Depending on, in some sense, it's been a real pain because you got to stretch it enough to get it together. Oh, and then pop it. And then sometimes it doesn't pop all the way in. And you'll clearly see it. But it can sometimes be a pain. Now, I've had some tanks that, in particular, that one that had that Lego design one. Remember that one we were talking about a bunch of times today? That one, because the way it pops together, you have to kind of go past it and loop back into it. And every time I did it, the fenders kept snapping off. It was just horrible. Now, this looks like a tank. Now, what's going to definitely say what kind of tank this is the turret design that it's going to have. Because at this point, we have a basic tank design. Yeah, if these lights will stay on long enough, we can go on to bag 3, and we will build the turret. Now, when it comes to turrets on tanks, depending on what brick company it is, and even which tank it is per the brick company, there's kind of 2 schools of thought on it. One school of thought is when you're making the big gun to use a bunch of little pieces and build it up that way. Or do you use one big long tube and have like a couple little pieces on one end and a couple little pieces on the other end? And then I've seen a few that use some medium-sized things, kind of a compromise of the two. On a low-quality set, if you use that long plastic one-piece tube, I find some, because it's softer plastic, I've seen those come bent, and it makes your thing look goofy. Because you don't want your barrel to be bent. Well, the shotgun I used to carry in the Marine Corps, it was a 12-gauge shotgun, Remington 870. it had a bend in the barrel. It was like somebody had used the end of the barrel to pry something open. We used to joke that with my shotgun I could shoot around corners. Being that it's a shotgun and not a rifle, it doesn't hurt anything. It's just going to blast that shot out of it. Now, if your rifle has a bend in it, you'd be afraid of having things explode and things go really, really wrong. But as a shotgun, it was fine. Disclaimer here: at no point am I condoning firing a weapon or a shotgun or any weapon with a bend in the barrel. And that's always what I think of when I think about if I get a brick tank set that has that one long plastic barrel. Because, it's a different kind of plastic. It's not that harder ABS plastic. It's a softer plastic. But the alternative is, like, if you remember the Best Lock sets and the Discovery Kid, the Best Lock sets, they use a bunch of the teeny tiny little pieces and put together, and then the barrel wants to keep falling apart. And what I like about the turret design, if you remember the Ban Bao sets, they used some bigger pieces. Like when it came to the turret, here's the shell of the turret, or here is the shell on the upper deck of the tank. Where we built this upper deck of the tank, the flat deck, I don't know what it's called. The top or the lower portion of the tank, that was a one-piece one that you had to put on. You had to pop on top of what. So you'd have what we have here, and you have to put it was just horrible to put together. The turret. So at this point, if this is a Ban Bao set, we'd be like 5 minutes from being done because you'd have that one-piece turret. You put it up there, build around it, bam. We are going to build a turret from scratch here. What's kind of funny or kind of interesting, when it came to building the chassis of this tank, that's what we're going to call it, the rolling chassis, the chassis of this tank, we used a combination of big pieces, little pieces, flat pieces, bigger bricks, bam. For this turret, it's going to be mostly smaller bricks, and we are going to build it up from scratch. And going back to the example I had of that Mega Bloks set, that Mega Bloks Call of Duty set I started building the other day, as well as what I suspect this Oxford Sherman is going to be, you're going to start by building the chassis with all these teeny tiny pieces, which that's horrible. Because if this tank chassis that we just bought started with a bunch of little pieces like we're building with now, oh man, that's just a lot of room for error and just horribleness. And it's not fun. When I was a kid, I didn't have Lego, I had, generico Lego. We couldn't afford real Lego. When I was a kid, you would build a set, and you wouldn't follow the instructions. You'd look on the box, and you'd just start putting it together, and sometimes it would look, usually it didn't. Sometimes it would look like it did in the box, but usually it didn't. I'm not following no instructions. And as an adult, I remember one of the first Lego sets I put together was a small Indiana Jones truck. And I wasn't going to follow no instructions, and I'm looking at it, and I got, 80 pieces or 100 pieces laid out, and I'm, in my mind, trying to figure out how in the world does this go together to make this truck or this Jeep. Because by gum, I wouldn't follow no instructions. So I started following instructions. The problem was, as I'm turning a page and putting a piece on and putting a piece on, what, this isn't like putting a puzzle together. This is more like just following some instructions. Here, do this. Here, do that. As a kid, you look at a Lego, or I did. I looked at a Lego set, it was like a puzzle, where you put all the pieces out, and then you got to find the right pieces to go together to make a finished product. But there was no instructions. That'd be like a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. That'd be like getting a puzzle and having each piece be numbered or color coordinated, not on the front, but on the back, and then you take it and put it by numbers, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. But I guess if you're building a 1,000-piece or a 2,000-piece puzzle and they were numbered, that would be just as tedious. So I'm looking for number 1,112. I can't find it. Yeah, that would be an interesting way to do a puzzle. Maybe we should try that. We should take one of the puzzles we have. We need to put it together, flip it upside down, and then number each piece with a little Sharpie or a ballpoint pen, and then take it all apart and scramble it together and then rebuild it by the numbers. I might have just invented something that's right there. So nobody steal this idea. Or remember, hey, when you become rich and famous with the idea, remember where it came from. Yeah, like anybody builds puzzles anymore? I mean, I like to build puzzles, but I don't have time. Just like I don't have time for Lego sets, so. I stopped building puzzles because if I had time, I need to be building a Lego set, so yeah, there's no puzzle. And then you put a puzzle, you have it up on a thing, and then the cats come and steal a piece and play with it and chew it and eat it. And then you never get that whole thing together ever again because of the cats, those darn cats. So yeah, that was my first example, or my first getting back into a Lego type set as an adult, and so, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't necessarily have the I don't necessarily have the patience for following instructions sometimes because look what I'm building here. They tell me which bricks I need, so I set those bricks aside. Then I see how they go, and I'm trying to look at box in the upper corner and trying not to look at the other pieces. So I'm seeing how they go together. And right now I say, okay, I have a square thing, so it's starting to look like it's a turret. So I kind of get and then I kind of get ahead of myself sometimes. Am I smart enough to say where we are now? Am I smart enough to put this together without these instructions in front of me that I am staring at kind of like a monkey in a Rubik's Cube? No. Because there's a lot of teeny tiny pieces. I hate teeny tiny pieces. Something I really don't like is on the Mega Block sets. I have found that when they print them out in the books, sometimes it is really hard to tell the difference between black, dark gray, and light gray, and sometimes silver and then white can be a pain too. Especially because they have so many things going on in each of the little boxes of what you're supposed to do for each step. At least with this, you don't have, a lot of pieces per each step. So if you're not sure, because, they're highlighting the one in color, man, is this black or is this dark gray? And yeah, so I don't like a set that has, I can't tell which this is. And then a lot of things, something about the Cobi sets. I remember Lego sets, the standard brick, your 8-stud brick, and then you had, your 4-stud brick and your 2-stud brick. Those were the standards. And as time went on, they had more and more bricks, but your basic build, and you had the bigger ones and smaller ones, but your basic build was the 8-stud brick. What I notice on Cobi, I have found some pieces that I have never seen before in Lego. I don't mean like a specialty piece. And I'm sure Lego probably has them now too, but maybe not as commonly. But like this flat 1-stud wide pieces here, they come commonly in your 2, your 3. They come commonly in your 2-stud, your 4-stud's a real common one, the 6, the 8, sometimes the longer ones. They're usually even numbers. The Cobi sets will have a lot of 3s, and I think I've seen a 3-stud flat piece in a Lego set before, but Cobi, they'll have some 5s. And when you're looking in the build book here, a 5 pretty much looks like a 6 unless you count them studs. Now, when you get them in real life side by side, you're not going to confuse a 3 for a 4 or a 5 for a 6. And there's some other pieces. I do notice that, and I don't know what it is. You'll find some of the standard 8-stud bricks in a Cobi set and in a Slew Band set or some of the other ones. But it used to be, at least with the Chinese sets, the more common one was that 6-stud one. The brick, 6-stud brick. It's not as big as the 8-stud one, not as small as the 4-stud one. And I never knew why that was, because you're building like a big aircraft carrier or something, and you're using 1,000 of those bricks, the 6-stud bricks. And when I say 6-stud, I'm talking, the 3-stud side by side. I'm talking 8-stud. I'm talking the 4-stud side by side. I'm talking standard brick, not these flat long ones. And then the other bricks that sometimes can be a pain in non-Lego sets, and they're getting to be a pain in Lego sets too, are the ones that you have, you know, that single stud one, but not that little teeny tiny flat one, but the single stud of standard height brick one. And then you have the one that has that stud that comes out in the front of it. And sometimes it's a fully enclosed one, and sometimes the back part is open, so you can put, there's so many tiny pieces. I hate tiny. You know what I don't like about the little single stud flat ones, because you got to make sure you get those on properly and they're not, a little crooked or something. Which brings me to the point, those micro bricks and really small ones, I think it's like Japanese company. Well, I have a bunch of the Chinese knockoff. I have some of the Japanese ones too, but I have a bunch of those Chinese knockoffs that are really very reasonable, under $10. But their studs are so teeny tiny. Oh, talk about tiny, please. Talk about tiny pieces. Forget about what I'm doing here. I mean, we got to use a tweezer to put them together. Oh, they're just a pain. And then I did a couple videos of them, and nobody watched the videos. Nobody cared. I had somebody say, that's not Lego. We're ripped off Lego. How is that a rip? I don't even look anything like Lego. Yeah. But in the case of what we have going here, these are tiny pieces. But since you're just building a turret with these tiny pieces, you can see it coming together very quickly. And since you can see it coming together, it's not like monotonous or a pain or frustrating or anything, because you can see it coming together. That's why bigger pieces are better. So this tank has about 550, 560 pieces in this set. And that Oxford one that I've been talking about, I think that's like 700 or 800. So it's still a tank about the same size, but it has quite a few more pieces. And this trend towards the higher price per piece count, we put a bunch more little pieces in there and we can charge them 5 cents per piece. There's no way a little stud costs 5 cents to make. We're talking these pieces cost less than a penny to make. Yeah, it takes a lot of them to go together. Yeah, but it's all about inflating the piece count, and it's kind of, it's a hustle. But as much as I hate, and then what I kind of like about this, I don't mind about this, you do one side, there's all these little pieces put together, wow, here's what it looks like, you do the ends, and now you do the other side, you're doing the same thing. Yes, it's opposite, and you got to do some things a little different, but you know exactly what it's going to look like. And at this point, I'm not even following the instructions, I'm just putting that other side on. And those are the kind of things I like, when you can be intuitive about it and then just start building. And it looks like a turret. Well, yeah, I better keep up with the book. And then you start thinking, wow, we're almost done and we have a lot of pieces left, and they're good about giving you spare pieces. Or there's the other one, man, we're almost done and we don't have as many pieces left as I think we should have. That's kind of scary too. On a lot of the brick tank sets, they'll have all those little antennas and those little goofy things that are made of different kind of plastic. So they'll be all bent and funky, and then they don't want to stay on properly. And really, it didn't take too long to build this. It is pretty warm, even with a fan going. Let me look at the temperature here. It's about almost 80 degrees in here, so it is hot. And if I was not filming this, I would probably have my pants off about now, because it's that hot. So next time I should zoom in closer to where I'm building, and you'll have no idea what clothes I'm wearing or what clothes I'm not wearing. Now, there's something else that will go on at the end of this video. I have no control over it. I might accidentally show everything that comes in the instructions and everything with this. So, I mean, I definitely ain't going to do it on purpose, but it is possible that accidentally somebody might see a free product code here and get to use the free promo code for some free World of Tanks type thing. But I guess if you already play World of Tanks, it ain't going to be, it ain't going to be any good to you. And if you do use the free couple whatever thing product code to play World of Tanks, if you like the game, then you're going to play it for real. And since I've never played it, I don't even know if it's one of, if it's a pay to play or you buy it or how it works. So I guess there's no harm in it, but I'm not going to purposely just start showing, because everybody says, "Oh, can I have your product code? Can I have your this? Can I have your that?" And I've emailed things to people before, but I can't. Here, show the product code. I did have somebody who I think it was a Comic-Con box. I accidentally showed a product code for some free thing. And it was viewable, and then someone says, I got it and I used it. No, they could have been joking, but it could have been real too. Now this is the point here where I got something that looks like a turret in my hand, and now we got I don't know if it's we're to the point we're going to have to start thinking about building the gun, building the cannon on this turret. And here's another piece. This end thing that the gun that the cannon mounts into, this is another piece that I've never seen in Lego. I've seen something similar in several or a lot of the Chinese sets, but this is very unique. It allows you to have the guns move up and down just a little bit. Lights! All right, now remember, when the lights go off, I not only have to get up and walk 8-9 feet away, I have to wave my arms around, and it takes, a few seconds for the sensor to see me. So I'm glad we don't have a camera aimed that way, because you would probably think that's pretty funny too. And there's pieces like this hatch that I'm building for the top hatch. I don't know if I've ever seen an identical thing like this on a Lego set, but it's another common thing that I have seen in Chinese sets, in a Kazi set, in Ban Bao sets. I may or may not have seen them in Sluban sets, but it's something that I'm very familiar with, but I don't know if I've ever seen it on a Lego set. It might be that it's something that Lego used to use. Gotta make sure I have it on your right. And really, if you're not following that closely, who's going to know if I got it on there right or not? So now that we're talking about the cannon, we're kind of going with this one. We are doing a bunch of little cannon pieces to make one big cannon piece. And remember, I'm not necessarily a fan of that sort of thing. So if the cannon's going to be short, if it's a short cannon, then yeah. But the longer they get, and this one's getting longer. With Cobi, it's not really bad because they're good quality. But if you did this with a Bestlock or even sometimes a Sluban, the longer it gets, the more flexible it gets, and they don't want to pop in all that well. But I've not really had that problem with the Cobi ones. I guess if you wanted to, you could take a drinking straw, like a drinking straw, cut it to the length of cannon you want, and then spray paint it or paint it up the color you want, and you could use that as a one-piece cannon. And it's neat what some things they give you extra of. They gave me 2 of those pieces to rotate the turret around. I don't know if they've broken before, and I don't know how the rhyme or that's a tank. I don't know how the rhyme or reason of what's extra and what's not extra. And with the printed bricks on the back, where the radiator is off the motor, very impressive. Now those logs, I guess I could look up what they are for. I don't know if they use those for, if they're in some mud and they can't get out of it, they can put it on it. I don't know, but all the picture shows this tank with those logs there. You gotta remember, this is probably, what, a World War II tank? Maybe Korean War era tank, so 1950s, 1940s, I don't know, I'd have to look that up. But I would pretty much gather a modern tank is not going to have a logs on that. Alright, so this is kind of a pain. This is more of, we're going to use some of the tank tread, extra tank tread pieces. They're not designed, but I think it's they used to hang it could be designed, or it could be they hung chunks of the tank tread that they need to replace from the tank. The problem I'm having here is it doesn't want to stay in on both sides. And I don't quite know exactly why that is. And it's just, oh man, come on. This whole thing went together really good. Now I'm having a problem with something stupid like that. I can see the finish line. I got what? This is the last thing I got to do? And one side will pop in, and then the other side just seems out of alignment. There's no way I could have put the wrong piece there, because it's pretty standard how the piece went. I guess I don't have to put this extra tank tread here. I could just throw it on the back and say, hey, this is the where the guys hung it on the back. Modify it. Really, if I didn't hang that on there, would anybody know? Yeah, I don't know, but it's kind of... I wish I could figure it out. I guess looking at the picture, it shows that the pieces there, they're not smooth across there, so they have to have the track needs an angle, and I don't care. Yeah, it takes almost 2 hours to build the tank, and then it's going to take me another 2 hours to figure out how to get this one last piece on here, and it's not even a piece that's integral to the part of the build. Those of you who stuck with me this long for the build, you're probably laughing. So it's a nice looking tank. Now, if you saw this, you just say, oh, it's a tank. Now, I'm not a tank expert on... I'm not a tank expert on tanks I don't know about. How about that? On tanks I've seen before, see how I just didn't hook it in the front? So I know about tanks I've seen before, or I've ridden on, and I know about things I know about. So hey, this was a tank. I couldn't tell you what. And it looks like the picture. Put the minifig on there. Open the little tank doors. We can stick them inside. I think this tank is pretty well scaled for the minifig. I like when people say the tank isn't scaled right for minifig. The tank's too big. The tank should be smaller. If you ever stand by a tank, a standard full-size battle tank, and it's not as small as you would think. Oh, we have more advertisements on the back for other tanks we can get. And there's a lot of cool looking tanks in this World of Tanks product line. Okay, so it is a very cool tank we just built. There's a lot of... my chair's a little squeaky today. There is a lot of tanks in this product line. It says World of Tanks Rollout. A lot of very cool tanks. And it's one of them things... Cobi Small Army always had a bunch of tanks. Now they have a bunch more tanks since they went with this World of Tanks thing. Now we have the specs on this tank. This is the IS-2. It's a cool looking tank. I guess I'll have to look on the internet to find out actually. I don't know, was it Chinese or Russian? Or... So it's got the vehicle weight, and and it has the specs that come in here. It has, how thick the armor is, the vehicle weight, 46 tons. Oh, okay, so this is for the game, because it has a hit points of 1,280, number of crewmen 4. And I've always laughed at a lot of these tank sets. They will say it has a crew of 3, or a crew of 4, or a crew of 5 or something. You only get 1 or 2 minifigs. Well, where's the rest of the crew? You say, down inside a tank driving it. Yeah, maybe. And then it has the, on the turret, it has the armor, how thick the turret is, and then the view range of 350 meters, turret speed, degrees per second at 28. So you have all the specs here for World of Tanks. And then you have like the hit points of the gun itself, that would be average damage, so what you inflict would be 390. Reload time is 12.3 seconds. And then accuracy, dispersion at 100 meters is 0.46. So you have your horsepower, your engine, your top speed, 34 kilometers an hour. What is that? A kilometer's 3/5 of a mile. Okay, so looking on the box, I guess this is a Russian tank. The Russian writing on the side of it. It's a good-looking tank. I am very impressed with it. And hey, you saw me build it. So if you are wondering, hey, is it really that easy to build? The answer is yes, it's that easy to build. Okay, so today we looked at the Cobi World of Tanks Rollout Series. This is set number 3015. 560 pieces, 1 minifig, even though we decided it was a crew of 4, I think. And this is in the Cobi Small Army product line, but remember, this is the Small Army World of Tanks product line. The IS-2, it was in service from 1944 to 1995. Place of origin, Soviet Union. It's a heavy tank. Weight, 46 tons. Armor, 160 millimeter maximum. That means the thickest part, it was 160 millimeters. Main armament, a D25-T 122 millimeter gun. Secondary armament, you got 3 DT machine guns. 12-cylinder diesel motor, 600 horsepower. Yeah, that 37 kilometers an hour. It says it right, has the conversion right here. 23 miles an hour. Not a very fast one. Made in the EU, compatible with other brands. It is a very cool set. Now, I think this is the first time that I've actually showed a full build of one of these that I haven't sped it up. Yes, this is a big video. This on my camera was over 6 gig after I downloaded it on my computer, and then I had to convert it, and then I had to convert it again and slap it together, and yeah, it's a big file, but it's going to take you a long time to watch, too. So, have you built any of these Cobi Small Army brick tanks? Have you had any of these Cobi World of Tanks brick sets yet? If so, other than that they correspond directly to something in the game World of Tanks, is there anything different in your mind with this compared to the standard Cobi brick tank? That's something to think about. Alright, so leave your comments in the comment section. Hey, as always, thanks for watching.
Beanmeister 22, the most dangerous man on YouTube.